Hello
Hello, welcome
and
to the
welcome to
Couch
the couch.
Coven. We can't, it's the lag. The lag really screws us up.
Okay. Hi, I'm your host Teddy, and this is Laura.
Hi, it's our first time being human today.
Yeah, I've been helping a friend through some rough shit this morning, trying to get him home. So I'm humaning for the first time right now. We're talking about other human stuff like fascia and plasma and higher consciousness.
Yes.
We're going to go from the solid reality to slightly higher quantum physics.
Yeah, we'll be talking about some things that might be hard to conceptualize. So we're going to start with the concrete stuff that makes more sense to humans, and then we're going to move on to the stuff that is science beyond science.
Neither of us are quantum physicists.
As much as I might like to be, I am not.
We're learning with you, and I think it was actually really fun to research for this episode. I had a good time. I was going through last night. I ended up on the Department of Energy website,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I ended up in some other places, and I still don't fully understand what the hell plasma is, but we're gonna get there. I only know what blood plasma is, and I don't know if that's the same thing, but we're gonna figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't either, but it feels like it's got to have some similarities. Plasma's plasma. I don't know.
So I hope y'all have fun with us when we do this,
Yeah.
because we did do research. This is people who know more than us are going to be featured in this podcast.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
We are not experts by any means. This is so that the layman can explain things to the layman. Like that's how I
yeah,
feel.
yeah, we're all trying and we're learning together, and I am having quite a bit of fun.
Good. I'm so glad. For our listeners, we decided less than 24 hours ago that this is what we would be recording today. So all of the research that we have done has been in the last several hours. And I'm glad that you had fun because this is actually something I've researched for a while because it's always interested
Mhm.
me, but I still don't understand it the way I probably should. So anyway, learning experience for us all.
I'm always really interested when you bring it up, and then you start talking about Atlas comets, and I go, "What? Excuse me?" I think it's actually really fun because you and I both research this kind of space quantum physics stuff, but I'm always in the astral plane and the unconscious. And you go, yeah, so science is real
Right.
and space is super cool.
Yeah.
So I think we balance each other out in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
And that's why I always go back to science. The ethereal stuff that makes sense to me in my soul,
Uh-huh.
it has to connect to the physical world somehow in a way for humans to understand. So that's why it always interests me. I know this is real, but how do I prove to humans who need proof for everything that this is real,
Uh-huh.
And connecting it back to science is always like, see, I knew this was real. My tinfoil hat that other people might see.
I have been into resonances and listening to different hertz for
Yes.
quite some time.
Oh my God.
So,
I've been seeing so much lately on social media. There's so many videos of woo woo girls being like, oh, don't listen to her. She only believes in astrology. She thinks everything's energy. And then all of these historical scientists from, 1700s onward are like, everything is energy. This is where we wrote specifically in scientific terms how everything is energy.
the Schumann resonance has apparently changed, which I
Yeah.
am not surprised about,
Yep.
which stresses me out, which makes sense as to why everything is going nuts and why nobody can sleep and everyone's extra stressed out lately.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, funny thing is, I've been seeing so many more people and not just women saying, oh my God, we need a matriarchy. It's time. And the fact that human residence has changed, the fact that all of these different pieces of information are coming out, like how scientists are
Mhm.
now actually researching plasma and higher consciousness and all these things that might be intertwined
Mhm.
together in the quantum field and all that stuff. The crazy part about it is I really do think it all connects to what humans would call feminine energy because it really feels like that's what's happening. Things are shifting in a way so that a matriarchy can exist in this world. The weird
Mhm.
part about it is that connects to the symbols that I've been seeing.
Ooh.
First of all, I would love for you to pull a tarot card first, and then we can move into my symbols afterward, because I would love to know what your tarot cards have to say for the day.
Well, I'm not going to ask for no swords because they love me. The swords are my suit. Whoa. God.
Oh
So
no.
I got the reversed 5 of Pentacles.
Oh, great. Love that.
And then on the bottom we have the reversed 7 of Pentacles.
Oh, whoa. That's the deck was like, fine, you don't want swords? Here.
Yeah, fine. You don't want fucking swords. Let me give you some reversed pentacles. The 5 of Pentacles, I usually interpret it as feeling materialistically abandoned or not
Interesting.
being able to see the blessings beyond the gates. Because if you look at the 5 of Coins or Pentacles, there are people in front of doors. There's one pentacle behind them, so like blessings behind them, and it's quite often a card that's like, well, you can ask for help. You're kind of choosing to not see what you can receive since you're not open to it.
Mm,
And reversed, I've found often means that mindset might be changing.
yeah.
And then the 7 of Pentacles is all about sowing your seeds, continuing to labor. And the 7 of Pentacles reversed, I find usually means things feel maybe stagnant
Mm,
and maybe some of this work feels like it's in vain. The pentacles are typically a very slow moving suit because they represent the earth, because they represent labor and harvest and like monetary
yeah.
either gain or loss or something like that, but it's very tangible.
Exactly. I see it as cycles.
Anyway, that's what I got.
Cool. That's how I interpret those cards as well. And I also feel like that is very telling of maybe where you are in your life, but also where the world is. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, it's time to shift perspective. This isn't working. I didn't want to pull cards this morning because I'd have other things that I wanted to talk about. I did. So, for our listeners, this is something that has happened for years and years, but I only just started a new meditation practice and actually started actively writing down symbols that I receive in my meditation. This morning, I meditated and I received a number of symbols. I usually only receive one or two. Today, I received symbols that I can't exactly explain quite what they look like. They all had very feminine features, if that makes sense. One of the symbols looked a little bit like a uterus, honestly. One of the symbols looked like Saturn, which I find in my life has very feminine energy.
Oh, that's interesting.
I saw something that looked almost like the number 4, but had more of an embellishment on it, like the R rune or the TH rune. If you look those up,
Mhm.
they look kind of similar to those. And then the symbol that was the most pronounced that kind of made me laugh, it was like a half moon with 2 squares on either side of it that were connected by a line. So
Mhm.
effectively, this half moon with the 2 squares of the line put together look like a frog wearing sunglasses.
Okay.
And while I cannot tell you exactly what any of these symbols mean, I can say that each one of these symbols does feel representative of something specific. 3 of them, the Saturn, the uterus, and the number 4 looking thing, all had feminine energy attached to them and all had positive energy attached to them, but sort of like a very
Okay.
forceful femininity. And then the frog with sunglasses felt very much like a watchful third party. Does that make sense?
Huh. No, that does make sense. That does make sense.
So, anyway, don't know what any of that means exactly, but I wanted to share, and I will continue to update you guys as I receive symbols, see if I can put anything together with them.
I love that. I often find that when I receive symbols or, either someone gives me a message in person or yeah, I start seeing stuff,
Hmm.
I I usually or yeah, just like random images and stuff come into my head.
Hmm.
I tend to find those pretty quickly throughout my life.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm very interested. Maybe we'll see a frog wearing sunglasses tomorrow
Yeah.
when we're out and about on the town.
Yeah,
If I may,
of course.
Valentine's Day is the 14th.
It
And
is.
I know that's a greeting card holiday, Saint Valentine, all that kind of stuff. But even if you don't really believe in Valentine's Day, I think it is still something that we have given quite a bit of power and energy and fill with love and feminine energy and softness and things
Yes.
like that. It's very the color pink and red. And I've actually been to myself, I keep saying Freudian slipping. So I've tried to make a connection to Venus, the Roman goddess of love.
Mm,
And within that connection, I have also felt a draw towards Aphrodite.
cool.
But my birth chart has a very strong Venus connection. And so I have always felt like I had to choose one or the other. But today, I was setting an offering on my altar to Venus, technically. And I haven't done anything like that in quite some time. And when I put that offering down, I just, started talking to myself and to her, to the goddess, and I just kept saying Aphrodite instead of Venus. So
Mm,
I think that with the feminine energy you are feeling, I've also seen a couple of different videos on TikTok about re-embracing your re-embracing your feminine energy and acknowledging the trauma of your womb and reconnecting with that, like reconnecting
nice.
with those parts of yourself and allowing those to heal. And I do
Yeah.
want to put a caveat. I do not identify as a woman, but I understand that I have a womb, and feminine energy is something that can be and has feminine energy has been co-opted by some pretty some pretty out there people who are trying to push divine feminine as conservative values in order to oppress women.
Hmm.
So that's not what I think we're referring to at all. That's not what I'm referring to at all. It's more of just the yin and yang of the universe.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. So yeah, I think that's really cool, especially with Valentine's Day coming up, and since we're going to be going out to an event that is very centered around sapphic love and female energy and queerness and things like that. I
Yeah.
think because Aphrodite is also a queer goddess. If you really look into her history and things like that,
Hmm.
she's very representative of and protective of LGBTQ plus
Hmm.
people. So that was just my tidbit. That's kind of how
Cool.
I've been going about my morning. I think that's kind of interesting.
And I appreciate that. For you and for the listeners also, I just want to point out that despite you not identifying as a woman, your experience having dealt with identity issues and having grown up in the patriarchal church heavy place that
Mhm.
you grew up in and that persona that you were forced to be in and
Mhm.
having to pull yourself out of that and really look at it from all angles, I think that you are a really good source for people to understand their own gender identity dynamics and stuff like that, and like what
Mhm.
femininity means to them or what masculinity means to them, because you have faced it so hard and like really looked at it. Yes, Teddy does not identify as a woman, but this person has incredible insight in all those things related to femininity and gender identity.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
I still identify with parts of girlhood, you could
Mhm.
say.
Oh
And
yeah, I know.
definitely, gender is complicated, sexuality can be
Yeah.
complicated.
Yep.
So thank you for that. And yes, I would love to be there for anybody who needs somebody to be seen by. I would love to witness you.
All right, into it, into the nitty gritty.
Hopefully, it won't be too nitty and it won't be too gritty. We are going to start talking about fascia, which is in fact something that's supposed to slip and slide in your body. This is the definition of fascia from the American Psychological Association. It says a sheet or band of fibrous tissue covering, separating, or binding together muscles, organs, and other soft tissue structures of the body.
For anybody who's like, wait, we were talking about higher consciousness and now you're talking about anatomy, I promise
It
it
all
all
connects.
connects.
Fascia is a network of tissue that encases the joints, ligaments, muscles, as we've just said, and nerves of the human body.
And lymph nodes.
Yes, it really is. I have this written later in my little research paragraph, but you can basically think of it as a net slash sausage casing. So
I think that's perfect. Fascia is the human sausage casing.
under the sausage casing of our skin. It provides support for our organs, so it literally keeps our muscles in place. It helps them glide against each other. It helps our organs from rubbing up against each other. It's kind of like a cushion in between.
All of our systems, our nervous system and all the wiring, so to speak, for that, as well as our lymph node system, is literally intertwined through our fascia like a net.
Yep, it's entangled with each other. The word web was used
Mm,
quite often in the articles that I was reading. That was very apt to
yeah.
describe it as well. Each organ has layers that keep it together, and fascia is the net keeping them from breaking from their intended spaces. Something interesting I learned was that hernias occur when the stomach or intestines create a hole in the fascia, causing spillage. That sausage casing idea, where if a little hole pops up, then the sausage,
Squishes out.
and that's what a hernia is. It's your intestines basically coming out of your body. My dad had a
Hmm.
hernia in his stomach, and literally, if like he had to pop it back into his
Yeah.
body, and if it popped out, he'd let us touch it, and it is. You're just like touching the
Yeah.
intestines. It's
It's
so weird,
gross.
and it's got to go back in the
Yeah.
fascia. Yeah, it's really nasty.
People tend to have a higher likelihood of those situations, hernias specifically, around their abdomen when they have loose muscles, like their muscles are not tight
Hmm.
and strong, and that can contribute to having hernias and stuff like that. So work on your abs, baby. You might be more susceptible to getting hernias, so get those abs rock solid.
The primary building block of fascia is collagen. It's in supplements, it's in beauty products, it's what makes our skin pliable, supple, it's what creates our cartilage as well, which is the thing in between all of our bones that keep our bones from grinding against each other. Collagen is a flexible substance. That's why fascia can stretch and contract.
And one more thing about collagen is our body does naturally produce collagen, obviously, until we get to about the age of 30, in which case our natural production plummets. And that's why people start aging
Ew.
around 30 because they just have less collagen in their bodies. And that's why we should take collagen supplements to be healthy for our bodies.
Hypermobility is often comorbid with neurodivergency. So, the collagen production of someone hypermobile is vastly reduced, thus not allowing an abundance of fascia. So that means if you're neurodivergent, you might be hypermobile, and this might result in looser joints, tighter muscles, and chronic pain due to strain on the overworked muscles.
Yeah.
So if you have less collagen in your body, it does not slide and glide against itself and is intended. If you always feel like you're stretching and nothing ever happens, if you have a crazy range of motion but you're always stiff, you might be
Hmm.
hypermobile.
Fun fact, Teddy and I are both hypermobile, which is lame.
It's a complicated push and pull between me and my body, and we're working on it. We're working on it. Me and this flesh sack. Another fun fact is that fascia can actually adhere to itself, organs, and even our bones.
Oh.
It can get stuck.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
These adhesions cause stiffness and chronic pain. So basically, what happens is our fascia is like any other muscle. You know, when you stretch in the morning and it feels really good, and you go,
Hmm.
ah, you feel all those little tinglies in your muscle. Fascia
Hmm.
does the same thing because it's not a muscle, but it's still a living organism within your body, and it grows and it flexes. It is in your body, so it can adhere the same way your muscles can adhere to themselves. Some basic things that help just off the bat with chronic pain and stiffness from fascia is foam rolling, acupuncture, and staying hydrated, because collagen is supposed to help glide us and move us. You got to stay hydrated. You have to be drinking your water.
Yeah.
If you are anywhere on the POTS spectrum, you
Hmm.
got to add a little bit of
Salt.
pink Himalayan sea salt specifically is really awesome. It's got a lot of electrolytes. If you don't put salt in your water, you are just going to keep drinking, feel thirsty forever, and always have to pee.
And maybe give yourself a headache.
Because you're drinking so much, you're flushing everything out of your body, but you're not actually absorbing any of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Fun fact, Teddy and I both have POTS.
I actually have to wear compression socks nearly every day if I don't want to feel like a slug. There are also different salt supplements and electrolyte supplements you can put in your water. So, like Liquid IV, I use one called Element, LMNT. Not sponsored. Sponsor me, please. I had to cancel my subscription. Fascia stores trauma in the body as well. It is like armor for our body. It lives right under the skin and deeper within our skeletal muscular system. It is woven between our organs and nerves, helping protect our insides. Like a muscle, it expands and contracts with use. The fight or flight response engages the fascia, causing it to contract. This is necessary in moments of danger. Traumatic situations trigger our survival response. Our muscles contract, and in a perfect world, they would return to a relaxed state after the danger has passed. When the fascia remains tense, the unreleased tension remains within the body without being processed. Emotional trauma is experienced by the body in the same way it experiences physical trauma. If you've ever experienced having really tight muscles, not being able to work something out, and maybe that muscle gets released after a massage or you stretch it just right, and you feel an overwhelming sense to cry, or you laugh, or you get angry, or something like that. Once that's released, it allows that energy and those emotions to go, to be released back into the body, the emotions that we never processed during that survival response. And that's how fascia stores trauma.
I would say a lot of millennials probably experience this, where you went through something that would be considered traumatic and your parents were like, "You're fine, pick yourself up and move on." They were actually wrong. Even if you seemed fine, that trauma was being stored in your fascia and places of your body. Good luck when that does get released, unleashed. What am I, a property manager again? Talk about my trauma.
A lot of places that you might feel trauma or stiffness after a traumatic event is your neck, your shoulders,
Hips.
and
Yep.
especially if you have experienced some sort of sexual trauma. When we are threatened, the body will curl in on itself to
Mm-hmm.
protect the vital organs.
Yeah.
And if we are stuck in that position for too long, it causes unnecessary strain on our muscles. So you have some muscles that are constantly tight, and then you have some that are tight in the opposite way because they're being contracted.
And I want to point out what you said, because I don't think people really understand this, that literally when you are experiencing something traumatic or experiencing, really heavy emotions, and you feel the desire to crawl up in bed in the fetal position, it's literally a physiological response. The fetal position is the position of protection, of self-preservation from our reptilian brain. It is a normal human response to want to curl into a ball when you're experiencing heavy emotions. You're not a sad sack, you're a normal human.
You should honor that response. If it gets to a point where that is where you stay for an extended period of time, that might be something to look at. You might already be aware of mental illnesses and things you may have. It's a very normal response. Please don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
How does this circle around to plasma?
The reason that it is important that we understand what the fascia does and how to stretch our muscles to release those negative emotions and that trauma that is
Mhm.
stored is so that we can, first of all, reach a higher level of consciousness, which we will go into. Reaching a higher level of consciousness within yourself, for yourself, and that meaning the liberation from egocentric concepts and lifting that veil that separates earth life from its divinity, from what we know to
Mhm.
be God, if that makes sense. By understanding how trauma is stored in the body, we can release it. And by releasing it, we can raise our consciousness to a higher level and remove ourselves from those egocentric concepts that are perpetuated in society. And the reason that that is important is because scientists have now started to understand that plasma, which is starting to be known as the fourth state of matter, is also becoming known as a state of consciousness. It is actual
Mhm.
consciousness. Plasma exists in everything. Just so you guys understand, in physics, plasma is an electrically conducting medium in which there are roughly equal numbers of positively and negatively charged particles produced when the atoms in a gas become ionized. So solar flares have plasma in them. There's plasma in our bodies. There's plasma in the atmosphere. There is something known as plasmoids. These are donut
Mhm.
shaped plasma like entities in our thermosphere, which is the fourth layer of our atmosphere where the UV rays and the X rays are absorbed. Scientists have found, upon researching these plasmoids, they engage in complex behaviors and display what appears to be mutual awareness, purposeful contact seeking, and communicative actions. These plasmoids are obviously communicating with each other. They are
Mhm.
messengers to each other. They share information. They're also known to be surrounded by chains and fragments of electromagnetic flux cables, which is similar to neural networks in the brain, neural
Mhm.
pathways in the brain. All of this information supports the idea that plasmoids are sentient, and all interactive plasma sources in the universe, the electromagnetic quantum continuum, and the universe itself may be conscious based on this information about plasma. With all of that being said, I believe through raising our consciousness as humans, we can heal all of humanity. The living universe as a whole can be healed through understanding how to reach higher consciousness and thus transmitting that information through plasma.
Mhm.
Again, I know that all sounds wild and confusing to people who don't know what plasma is exactly. What I want to do is go into higher consciousness and then again circle back around to plasma so that it might make a little bit more sense. Higher consciousness, like I said, is widely known as liberation from egocentric concepts and lifting that veil that separates Earth from its divinity. Some people would obviously say higher consciousness is part of the goal of enlightenment for Buddhist monks, if that helps you kind of put it into perspective. Meditation is a huge thing that can help us move towards higher consciousness. Self-reflection, breaking down your ego, understanding that if something is offensive to you, is it offensive for a legitimate like human rights reason, or is it offensive to you because your ego is attached to something that isn't actually related to you? Practicing mindfulness, understanding that being mindful in the world is being intentional also with how you live, seeking high vibration things, avoiding low vibration things. And by vibration, I mean energy. If something makes you feel good and high vibrations, that's something that you should be seeking. If something's making you feel low, feel negative energy, then maybe that's not something that you need to have in your life. And of course, that's not to say that you should be avoiding all of discomfort. Understanding what drains your energy, what's good for you and what's not, and being intentional about that and practicing mindfulness throughout it, and then processing and releasing those negative emotions through fascia work, through physical exercise, and then practicing gratitude. I don't know how, but I do believe the feeling of gratitude is directly related to consciousness somehow. I don't know how. I know that sounds weird and I can't prove it. I feel practicing gratitude can instantly lift any social situation to a higher vibration.
There is a concept of things called glimmers, which is practicing gratitude and finding beauty within our surrounding, or finding things Marie Kondo would say spark joy. So if it's just like, oh, you heard a bird chirp and it was nice. I find that if I buy a little sparkly keychain or something like that, it makes me smile.
Yeah.
It triggers that little dopamine response in my brain.
Yeah, I love that. I have thought about that my whole life. And I always thought, genuinely, ever since I was a little kid, I always saw the little details in life, the little beautiful things, these small little details that we could breeze right past and nobody would notice. I would always tell people, look for the little things that give you joy. But I'd never had a term to describe that. So, glimmers, that's so cute. I love it.
I have always enjoyed the small moments of peace and the mundane. I refer to it as magic in the mundane.
Oh, I love that too.
Honestly, I love just drinking my coffee in the morning. It is something that I look forward to so much. Doing a little bit of journaling, being able to walk my dog around, being able to stop in and say hi to my property manager, or even
Yeah.
just the smell of toast in the morning. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot stress to you how many times I sat in my parents' kitchen where I was just making toast, drinking coffee, and looking at the light beams coming through the window and listening to the
Yeah.
wind chimes, because that is where the magic is. That
Yeah.
is where, energy lives. That is where our consciousness is. The entire planet and universe is conscious. The galaxy is made up of plasma pathways, like you said, that mirror neural pathways in the brain. So plasma
Yeah.
is literally the brain of the universe. So we
Yeah.
are in this giant brain experiencing all of these things and these sensations with our little mini brains, and you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I love glimmers and finding magic in the mundane. And then someone who does practice literal magic, it makes it so much easier to connect with that part of my spirituality and that practice by just acknowledging the things that are already so fantastical. I can't believe that any of this shit exists. If you really think about it, this is wild.
Once you do really put yourself in that frame of mind where you're paying attention to all the little beautiful things that happen in life that there isn't fanfare for, that isn't
Hmm.
perpetuated by society to be important to people, then you look back at society and you're just like, what is all this shit? There's so much beauty in existence already,
Hmm.
like, and love and joy. What do you mean I have to buy things on Amazon to feel? Get the fuck out of here. None of that means anything. You know what I mean?
Go sit in a tree. I have a tree on my. You've heard about my tree.
Oh, yeah, I know your tree.
You've sat in my tree.
I have.
I have this tree on my apartment's property that is perfect for sitting in. It literally looks like a little hand and it just cradles you so well. I bring blankets, I'll bring my water bottle, sometimes I bring my journal, sometimes I just sit there. There was one winter a couple years ago where it would be snowing and it would be freezing. I would bundle up and I would just go sit in that tree
Oh,
for a couple of
yeah.
hours. It was so incredible. It's so amazing. And that will literally connect you back to the earth's energy because so
Yeah.
much of our society keeps us from feeling the literal energy of the earth and doing what's called grounding.
That's why psychedelics are illegal. Like, if anybody has done any research or read anything from previous generations about psychedelics, there's a writer named Aldous Huxley who wrote books about his experience on psychedelics and how it brought him to a higher level of consciousness, and how it's believed these drugs are illegal specifically so that people in societies stay in a construct. Their mind is in a cage, so to speak. Psychedelic drugs were never illegal for the safety of
Mm-mm.
humans. It was to keep them in a box so that they did not expand their minds.
I don't know if you've heard of the gateway
Yeah.
tapes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've done the gateway tapes.
The gateway tapes are something the government created in order to reach this higher level of consciousness.
And you said something about your tree
Mhm,
that kind of helps me loop back to what I was talking about. Things that help us move towards higher
mhm,
consciousness: meditation, self reflection, breaking down the ego, practicing mindfulness, processing and releasing negative emotion, which we can help with
mhm.
fascia work, practicing gratitude, educating yourselves. Oh my God. Oh my God. Educate yourself.
Please.
It's something that's so crazy to me because I grew up in a very conservative
Mhm.
household. My mom and my dad used to talk about how I shouldn't go to college because whenever somebody goes to college, they turn into a liberal. You know what happens?
They get educated.
Yeah, they get educated. Oh my fucking God. I want to scream at the top of my lungs. You're not being
Mhm.
indoctrinated. You were already indoctrinated, and
Yeah.
education is unindoctrinating you. That's what's happening. So, anyway, education, because you can still have a lot of really messed up,
Mhm.
bigoted views from your upbringing or just traumatic experiences that make you see things a certain way that can be really detrimental to getting to that higher place of consciousness.
Especially if you're white.
Yes, yes. Oh my
Please, for
God.
the love of God,
Oh my
educate
God.
yourself. And there are so
Yeah.
many resources out there that you can look into and that you can research without burdening a person of color. Okay, go to your local library. Your librarians would absolutely love to help you out, to help you deconstruct all of the colonization and being the oppressor. And I don't say that to be a piece of shit.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I used to get really defensive when people would bring up how white people shouldn't be proud that they're white. We are the oppressors, and so we have to act differently in society. We have to educate ourselves about the suffering that white people have inflicted upon people of color
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah.
fucking millennia. I say this in love, and I say this because the only way things are ever going to actually change is if you educate yourself on not only the things people of color have been through and all of the oppression surrounding
Mhm.
that, but how white people are even still privileged in our society. Like, you don't even know. I am queer, I am butch, and so even going outside, I experience maybe 0.5% of someone who is queer and of color experiences. And I need to be aware of that,
Yeah.
especially
Oh, yeah.
because our society, our culture, and especially speaking from a queer perspective, it is built on the backs of people of color.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I grew up
Mhm,
in a very conservative household with white parents, but growing up, I had a very teensy, teensy, tiny little taste of racism as a child because my dad was never around. I was very, very tan as a kid, and my hair was very, very curly. All of the kids in my class, all the kids in my neighborhood, all of my friends' parents assumed that I was half black because my dad was not around, not that fact particularly, but because he wasn't there for them to
mhm,
see that he was white, and because I looked the way that I did, people assumed that I was half black. With that being said, I don't look anything like a half black person now. But when I was a kid, there were a few circumstances that I experienced where somebody registered me as black and treated me differently
mhm,
because of it as a child, and it was really jarring, especially at like 10 years old, because you don't understand it in that same context. You don't understand that
mhm.
people are being racist towards you. And what's really crazy about it is because I would then go home, I would experience some sort of racist, remark from somebody and be like, oh, that was weird. And like go home and tell my mom about it. And my mom would be offended that they thought I was black.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I would be like, well, wait a minute, mom, that's racist in and of itself. And then she would go on a tirade about how she's not racist because when she grew up in Puerto Rico, her best friend was black and Spanish was her first language and blah, blah, blah. And none of that was ever a thing in my household. There was no culture from her childhood. There was nothing that she was teaching me to be culturally inclusive in any way, shape, or form. And then when I experienced racism, she acted like offended. They thought I was black, which then put her on the side of the oppressive racist person. You know what I'm saying? And so the idea that there are so many white people in the world like my mom who are actively racist and say that they are not. So anyway, long story short is there are so many white people who never experience racism in any way outside of them being white. There are marginalized communities in society who have been marginalized for quite literally thousands of years. Despite there being civil laws in place that are supposed to protect those people, that doesn't mean they've ever actually been protected. What white people don't understand about racism is that they think that racism is some sort of hateful based thing. And I want to be very, very clear with white people specifically, the racism is not hate based, it is fear based. You are living in fear because you don't know what those other societies are like. You don't know what it's like to be in that person's shoes, and you are fearful. Grow the fuck up.
Yep.
Just because your white ancestors, just because you're not responsible for their actions directly, doesn't mean that you're not part of how we have to grow as a society.
Not only do we carry the trauma of our immediate families, we carry the ancestral trauma of being colonizers. If you are white, you have colonizer in your ancestry. Even if you come from, Europe or whatever, because those places were fucking colonized.
My ancestors are Portuguese colonizers. My family was exiled to Hawaii, and they were literally sent out of the country because one of my family members was royalty and was kissed by a peasant. So just somebody who was poor kissed her, and they were forced out of the country. Just a little idea of what colonization is like. Even if you're within royal family, if you are even remotely involved with people of a different caliber or class according to that royal family, then you can be exiled. Just an understanding of why colonization is so terrible, because even if you don't do anything wrong, you're going to be oppressed. What your government does to one group, they will eventually do to you. So long-winded way to say, don't be fucking racist. Educate yourself and grow the fuck up.
And then speak up. If you are white, you have the privilege of speaking up. You have to. It's your responsibility because you have so much more privilege than you even realize, and it is your fucking responsibility to speak up for people. Don't speak over people. But if it's a situation in which your voice will be heard and you saying something will keep somebody else safe, you better fucking speak up, and you better fucking talk to all your other white relatives, white friends about this, because it is so important, especially if we're going to try and heal society.
Having been that person back in my early 20s, that was like, oh, I don't really like to get involved, blah, blah, blah. That's privilege. You are privileged to be able to say that, because there are millions and millions of people in this world who do not have the privilege to say, oh, I wash my hands of it, it doesn't matter to me, because they are the ones being oppressed. As a white person with a voice, it is your responsibility to make sure that equality is actually something that humans try to achieve. We are working towards genuine, true equality, and not what our fucking disgusting policy makers are trying to do. So yeah, as a white person, it's your responsibility to not be a shithead.
And a lot of the woo-woo spiritual stuff online has been co-opted by white supremacists in order to reinforce white supremacy and racism and keep people oppressed. And that's also something you really need to watch out for. And that's something I want to make clear, that that's not what we're doing here. This is genuinely so we can both heal from our ancestral trauma, our personal trauma, and then also heal the fucking human race.
And this is what loops back around to plasma. My theory is that knowing that plasma contains consciousness, then
Mhm.
we potentially, as a humanity, have the ability to heal as a collective if only some of us are meditating, educating ourselves, practicing mindfulness. Then we can still have a healing effect on the entirety of the world of consciousness as we know it. We can potentially heal it through that plasma, through that communication. Energy really is real. It's like when you walk into a room and there's somebody who's clearly in an extremely bad mood and is being sharp and unkind,
Mhm.
and it fills the whole room with that energy, right? Can't we do the same thing with positive energy?
And it's never going to make the suffering go away, but goddamn, we don't have to cause it for each other.
I was going to mention it before because you had mentioned your tree. That's another big thing that can bring us to a higher state of consciousness is aligning with nature. That means physically spending time in nature, respecting plants, animals, people, respecting what exists within the natural world, and eating
Mhm.
whole foods, putting good foods into our body, not eating processed garbage. And I call that low vibrational food. We should be eating more whole foods and making sure that our body is connected to the natural world in that sense and getting the nutrients
Mhm.
because that's why it's there. Whole
Mhm.
foods, real vegetables exist for us to consume. Okay. You're not supposed to just eat Chex Mix every day. Not saying that Chex Mix is necessarily bad for you. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the better ones in regards to processed foods. But anyway, what I'm saying is eating whole foods is part of connecting to nature, and all of that natural food exists for us to eat. So eat it. It's good for you.
If you don't have access to whole foods, if you are on a limited income, that's why community is so important, so we can rely on each other and make sure that everybody's taken care of.
And check out your local area that you live. There are some food banks who certain days a week will have fresh food options and they're free. Check out your local food bank. You can even go to farm stands and farmers markets and talk to the people who sell there. Let them know what your situation is. And you might even be able to strike up a deal with a local farmer regarding getting the
Mhm.
vegetables that they plan to toss or use as feed and getting them on
Mhm.
discount. There are ways that you can do it. When I was a kid, I did not have fresh veggies in the house. I grew up really poor, or I grew up with a mom who didn't know how to manage money. She only fed us canned food. It wasn't until I started cooking when I was in middle school that I started bringing fresh veggies into the house. And then when I started cooking, my mom just gave up on it. She was like, oh, you got this now. But I realized once I started feeding myself and giving myself food that I knew was better for me, my whole world started changing. My mood was
Mhm.
improving. Everything about my life was improving because I was starting to eat things that are meant for human bodies and not processed food that are meant for the pocket lining of some rich asshole. Circling back around, if we try to achieve a higher state of consciousness through meditation,
Mhm.
self reflection, breaking down our ego, educating ourselves, living with intention, aligning with nature, practicing mindfulness, all those things, we can potentially heal the world and all consciousness that we know of through this weird plasma shit that nobody can really fully understand, but it's definitely there. So, yeah.
I think that was good.
Yeah. This is a great episode.
I have enjoyed this quite a bit. I'm actually going to do some fascia work later today.
Before we wrap up, why don't you tell me what you do in regards to maintaining your connection on your pathway to higher consciousness? What are some things that you do in your life?
I used to have a pretty steady meditation practice. I don't so much like sit down and do that anymore. I definitely practice mindfulness. I like to journal because it helps get my thoughts out of my head, put them on paper to look at later so that my brain isn't filled with a hamster wheel of constant thoughts. I'm going to be so honest with you. I don't have a consistent practice with quite anything. I try and do small mobility exercises during the day.
Hmm.
I will foam roll my back out when I need it. I
Yeah.
have had a rib out in my back for months at this point. I have
Mm.
been trying to put off going to the chiropractor because I thought I've been able to fix it, but it's gotten to the point where I need to get it popped back into place because it is causing me so much pain.
Oh
And
no.
doing mobility exercises and trying to do core exercises makes it worse.
Oh no.
I've had to do self massages on the right side of my abdomen because it's so tight to the point where once I breathe out, my abs actually will seize. I have been trying to focus on not straining myself while keeping myself mobile. I'm a lot more stationary these days, but I take walks. Walking is a big one.
Good. Yeah.
Mindfulness, gratitude, something I have become more comfortable with and have started doing more recently for myself, literally within the past 2 weeks, is being a witness to my own trauma.
Mm.
These are things that I have worked through in therapy. Like, I did some light stretching, lit some incense, I made myself a cup of tea, and I allowed myself a safe space to just write about all of the events that would circle in my brain. Not everything, but the main ones I felt were the most distressing. Immediately, I didn't realize it, but that immediately changed something in my body. Like, my
Wow.
reproductive system almost fixed itself. I'm so serious. I have had issues with a healthy menstrual cycle
Mm,
for my
mhm.
entire life. And it was after writing all of that stuff down and allowing myself to write out my true feelings about it, not trying to cushion it, not trying to make it sound better, writing down my actual feelings about it.
Yeah.
Those issues are gone.
Wow.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was that second that I really finished. And I did have to take a break. Like, I wrote down some of it, I took a break, I went back later that evening and I wrote some more stuff down. That's actually a big way that I am allowing myself to reach higher consciousness. I'm setting a space aside for myself to truly acknowledge the way that I feel and be a witness for the person who experienced those traumas, because they deserve to be
Yeah.
heard and they deserve to be able to let go and be seen.
That's beautiful.
By hiding from that, I'm not allowing that validation for myself and for my past self. That's a way that I really love to kind of do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that really connects back to a form of therapy that I started many years ago called internal family systems. You acknowledge
Mhm.
these traumatized parts of you that haven't beneficial
Mhm.
to moving forward, and acknowledging that they were protecting you before, however it was that you
Mhm.
had responded to that trauma and how you were holding on to it, was potentially helping you and protecting you previously, but now it is a time to recognize that those parts
Yes.
need healing and love. So that's really cool because you connected all of that raising higher consciousness back to being intentional with your mental health and stuff like that and how intertwined it really is. I also do very similar things in my own way. I have started a new meditation practice. I used to meditate a lot, at least 20 minutes a day. And sometimes I would do two separate
Mhm.
20-minute, one in the morning and one at night. I wanted to ease back into it. So right now I'm just doing 20 minutes in the morning. And then my goal is, after I get really good with this practice, to do 20 minutes at night. So I'm doing at least 40 minutes of meditation, and then again, eventually move up to half an hour. So I'm doing an hour of meditation a day. That's the goal. And that helps a lot. Self reflection, breaking down ego, that is a big part of
Mhm.
it. What helps me with that is cognitive behavioral therapy, acknowledging the conditioning that I have and undoing it in real time each time I make a decision. Genuinely, everything I say, every decision I make goes through this filter of, is this
Mhm.
me or is this my conditioning? So that really helps because the me that I want, is the higher consciousness me. Having to stop and be like, okay, is this conditioning? Why am I making this choice? Why does this feel like the right thing to do? If this isn't the right thing to do, what is the right thing to do? And building who I want to be brick by brick with every decision I make through cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's a lot of practicing mindfulness and living with intention. Obviously, educating myself. I'm trying to learn more and more every day about things that I were never taught, things that were
Mhm.
never brought to my attention regarding interacting with other people in society, regarding humanity and human rights, and like how things should be on Earth. Of course, aligning with nature, spending time in nature. I'd say 4 or 5 days a week, I'm going to the local park by my house that has a big
Oh.
lake, has a big view of the mountains, and I will do some meditating there. I'll do my exercising there. And then, of course, I love plant identification. So sometimes I'll go on walks and just only paying attention to plants. One of my favorite glimmers is smelling flowers. That's one of my favorite glimmers, even more so when I'm not doing it on purpose. If I walk past a garden and I just
Yeah.
get a waft of flowers, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the good stuff.
I love when wisteria starts growing in the spring in my neighborhood, because you just walk around, like, there are a couple houses that have huge wisteria vines.
Yeah, I love wisteria. And yoga, somatic exercise, fascial release, and breath work are big parts of that. I am hypermobile and I used to stretch every day, and I realized that I was like increasing my pain by stretching every day. So now I try to stretch just a couple of times a week, doing body scans. Where's my tension and how can I release that? In that, doing what you mentioned and sort of being a witness to myself for the traumas that I experienced so that I can release those emotions in a safer mindset. If I don't consciously do that, where I'm like, okay, it's safe for you to feel this right now, I go right back into fight or flight.
I have to make sure I am connected back to my physical being.
Yeah.
And I have set that intentional space where this is what we're going to do. It's kind of like when I go to therapy, I am in a specific container. This is also something that you can do if you want to start meditating, even if it's for like 5-10 minutes a day, or even just sitting in mindfulness. You can light a specific candle, you can light a specific incense or a specific instrumental track in order to associate your brain with this moment of mindfulness and connection. I call it a container because you're putting yourself in a little space, and then set a timer for like 5 minutes so that you're not floating off into space and it's not some ambiguous thing. It can be intentional the way that you do this stuff. So if you're
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed starting any of this, or if you're trying to make sense of this, you don't have to push yourself to do intense yoga workouts or super intense meditation. Set a timer. It gives you a boundary of where you're going to be, and you don't have to then be distracted. You can allow yourself to relax in this space and put those things aside.
Yeah. So something I was going to recommend if you are new to meditation, reading books on meditation really helps understand how to start. And then what I picked up from that is using a mantra. That is what really helps me because I don't always want technology to be involved. So sometimes putting on a track and doing that aspect of it can be stressful for me. Sometimes I just in the moment need to just sit and immediately start meditating. And having a specific mantra really helps me with that because it puts me in that frame of mind. One of the books that helped me really create a strong meditative practice was a book called Conquest of Mind. His name is Eknath Easwaran. He's dead now. He is an incredible source of information, tons and tons of books. Conquest of Mind is the one I recommend. There's another one called Climbing the Blue Mountain. They both really, really helped me understand meditation. And if it weren't for this man's interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, then I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am with this idea of higher consciousness. I highly recommend reading the Bhagavad Gita. Definitely reading books on meditation will help you if you're new to meditation because it can be a really intimidating thing, especially when your brain doesn't shut up, which is I think for most Americans, whether you have ADHD or not, I feel like most Americans' brains don't shut up.
We're constantly overstimulated. That is by design.
It is by design.
So that we do not think, so that you can't get out of your head. So yeah, sometimes it is the damn phone. Okay.
Sometimes it is the damn phone.
Put that shit away.
Having a mantra can be really helpful. I think mine is really silly, but it helps me a lot. And my mantra is me happy, me healthy, me at peace.
I love that.
It's funny because I actually originally got it from a meditation app called Oak. They have a loving kindness meditation where they say, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be at peace. But then it was a video I saw online where this lady was talking about the specific language that we use when we are doing affirmations. For whatever reason, there are certain words that have higher vibration and certain words that have lower vibration. And saying I am or may I are lower vibration terms, and saying me is a higher vibration term. So that's why I swapped it out with that, because I know it sounds sillier, but it does feel better when I say it. And I've used that as reason enough to have that be my mantra. So Spanish, you wouldn't say I am hungry. You would say I have hunger. You say tengo hambre instead of I am hungry. And so it's not an identifier. It's like I happen to have hunger right now. And it's not confining.
Simply a state of being. So language is important as well. So I like that.
It is really important. So having a good mantra is good. And then the last thing that I do to help with higher consciousness is, of course, yoga and breath work and stuff like that. I think breath work is really, really important. And I don't think people realize how much breath work can affect your physiology and your mental state. So I like to sing as well. And so sometimes I'll do vocal practices. Christina Aguilera has a really good vocal practice for warming up your voice. In a video, she had talked about how she knows people in the music industry who use breath work like drugs.
Oh, wow.
If you do breath work in a specific way, there's so many different types of, breath exercises that you can do. But if you do breath exercises in a specific way, it can give you a feeling of euphoria. And so it's just another realization of like, wow, we have so much more control and so much more access to control that we have of our bodies and autonomy and consciousness and all those things. We don't even need to put things in our body to affect it in the way that we want to. So anyway, breath work is a big thing. I highly recommend, if anybody dealing with anxiety who has not tried breath work, try it. Look it up. Do some research.
And if that feels too intimidating, you can just look up diaphragmic. I think it's called diaphragmic breathing, where you learn how to properly breathe with your diaphragm. Most of us are not breathing properly,
That makes sense.
especially if you're like me and you grew up in diet culture and you've been constantly sucking in your stomach your entire life.
Mm.
You don't know how to breathe. I don't know how to
Ah,
breathe.
whoa. I never even thought of that.
And especially with the back pain that I've been experiencing, breathing the way that I normally breathe
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, learning how to properly breathe with my diaphragm, not only is it actually helpful, it does feel very strange and overwhelming at first because you're taking in a lot more oxygen
Right.
than normal,
Yeah.
and it also helps stimulate your GI system
Ah,
and
gotta go
your
poopy.
vagus nerve
Oh,
because yeah, in your vagus nerve because you're
nice.
actually breathing in with your diaphragm, your full lungs, you're expanding your stomach, and you're basically breathing through your pelvis as well. So not
Yeah.
only is all of that being stimulated, and it engages your core. It engages your core, it engages your lower back, it engages your side abs, which you're probably not engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is another way that you can work on releasing your fascia and work on reconnecting with your body just to stimulate the parts of you and the vital organs that you have that may be shielded by your body because you are in a fight or flight state or you're stressed and you're curling in on yourself. Diaphragmic breathing, it forces you to have proper posture and
Mm-hmm.
actually breathe in a way that is good for you, that actually sends oxygen to your brain. And because you're breathing basically with your stomach, you are trying to expand your stomach and your lower abdomen, it relaxes all of that and it stimulates it because that's what you're moving instead of just breathing with your chest or right below your throat.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I always wondered, that is a big part of a meditation practice, is that they will tell
Hmm.
you to breathe through your belly. Every practice like every written practice that I've read has said that. And I always wondered what the purpose of that was. I always did it. I always breathed through my belly, but I never understood that part of it. So that's really cool. And I'm glad that you mentioned the vagus nerve. Our vagus nerve has a lot to do with how we react to things in our life. Understanding how the vagus nerve works and stimulating that can
Hmm.
potentially help us process difficult things as well.
And in regards to that same thing as fascia work, it can be overwhelming at first. If you are trying to stimulate your vagus nerve, if you are actively doing exercises and focusing on releasing that trauma, I have found that it can be very overwhelming. You don't want to push yourself, you don't want to force yourself into a position that you think you're supposed to be because that's not what you need. You don't need to force your body to work through anything because it's just going to make it worse and stop you up more.
Same physically. The point of it is to also help with your mental health and to move through some of those things. Your body will tell you when it's time to slow down. You can't push
Mhm.
yourself. And if you push through that, you could physically hurt yourself and also have a really, really difficult emotional release because of it, which
Yeah,
may be good, but also listen to your body. Your body is
please.
telling you things for a reason.
I think that sounds good because if we
Yeah.
keep talking, this is going to be like 4 hours long.
Yeah, we could keep going on this. Well, everybody listening in, wish us luck on our kissing booth in Denver tomorrow. Our Sapphic event that we're going to for Valentine's Day has a drag show and a kissing booth and a bunch of crazy stuff. And I feel like we're gonna walk in and be like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming.
Bring your loops. We're going to eat beforehand. Remember, if you're going out, whether you're going out and you drink, you smoke, whatever, make sure you eat.
Yeah.
Eat beforehand.
Yeah.
Whatever fucking outfit you're trying to wear, you are going to want to eat a cheeseburger. Okay?
Your outfit is going to look just as good with a little food baby in there. So
You're going to look so good because you have energy. You're ready to go. You're ready to party. Those shots are going to metabolize better and you're going to feel better. Your hangover won't be as bad either.
work it, girl. Work your curves. Love yourself.
Because if you're having fun, it doesn't fucking matter what
Mhm.
anybody else thinks.
So do what you need to do to feel good. That's what matters.
Do what you need to do. That does circle around to talking about muscles and bodies
It
and
does.
keeping ourselves healthy. I could go on so many tangents, but we should probably wrap up. So, do you have anybody you'd like to spotlight this episode?
Oh, yes, actually, I do. I want to spotlight my cousin Ashley. She is an older cousin on my mom's side, and she is quite literally the only member of that family that I have contact with anymore because she is the only one who acknowledged the way we were raised was super fucked up. And she has started doing tons of self work and like started therapy many years ago. And she is a Reiki master now. And like, she
Whoa.
has done several ayahuasca trips and stuff like that and has done a lot to really undo her conditioning, all while being a mother of 4 and married to a cop.
Gosh.
So she's pretty incredible. And I love her to death. And she does not get enough recognition in her life. She has 2 kids who are both on the autism spectrum, and she supports those kids like I've never seen a mother support their children. She is rock solid for those kids. If like they have IEP meetings at their school and she's in there just like, nope, you're going to do exactly what my kids need because this is not a fucking game. Like she is so cool.
Amazing.
And I love her, and she's constantly trying to recognize like where her faults are so she can improve herself and be better. And she's just very aware and trying really hard, and she does not get the recognition that she deserves. So this is a golden trophy for her. There's no physical golden trophy, but there's a mental golden trophy for her and all of her accomplishments and how hard she has worked in her life.
Woo! Let's go, Ashley.
I love you, Ashley. I love you.
I love you too. I've never met you, but I love you too. You sound amazing.
She is.
If you could hear my chair in the background, that was my chair.
Is that what that
wasn't
was? Okay.
me. That was my chair. Yeah. Just I gotta figure out if I can WD-40 it or something. Something I didn't realize about being hypermobile that is not normal for other people is that I am constantly snap crackle popping.
Oh my God.
And I don't
Yeah.
just mean I crack my fingers everyone like constant. I move.
Yep.
Like last night I was laying in a position and then I went to just turn over in my sleep. Both my shoulders popped, something in my hip popped. I think my neck might have popped. Like I wasn't even trying. It just went
Yeah.
pop, 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 pop. I swear to fuck, if I'm in one position for too long, I have to literally like get my bones to move. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm
We pop in
right
and out
there
of
with
place all
you.
the time.
Yep. Yeah, I always thought about how when I was younger, I always wanted to be like a spy, and how I wouldn't be able to sneak up on anybody because my bones crack so
Oh my
much.
god, I never thought about that, but that's so funny. That's so true. My fucking like toe would where I would unconsciously be like popping my toes.
Yeah.
'Cause I have my right toe has a bunion and so it doesn't pop down, but it pops sideways.
Yeah, mine too. I have both my feet have bunions and they pop sideways.
Oh, sorry, I crack my back, I crack my body, and then it doesn't want to function again. My nerves don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So, blessing, intention, setting for the collective. I would like to send you all away.
Send you all away. Get out of my face.
My little baby chicks are being set free. Sent you all with a blessing of peace, a blessing of safety within yourselves and within your bubble. And I ask that you treat yourself with kindness. And if you need to get harsh with yourself, that you find yourself in a place of safety in order to witness those parts of yourself.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. We'll stay with that.
I want to piggyback off that and ask that everybody lean into their feminine energy and acknowledge that femininity is not weakness. It is not what society has perpetuated it to be. That our feminine divinity is actually where we can draw a lot of our strength. So lean into your femininity, guys.
Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you being here with us today.
Yep.
I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun this episode.
Me too. Let us know what you guys think. Personally, I feel like our last episode was kind of boring, and Teddy was like, "Oh, I really liked it." So I would love to know what everybody else thinks, because I'm a harsh critic for myself.
Give us your feedback. I also would really love to see any way that y'all want us to do something different or anything that we're doing right.
Anybody who has cool stuff they want to share, if they want to be on our show, let us know. If you want to just give us a write-in and have your story be on our show, please let us know. We want to share everybody's information with each other, whatever you think can help others.
Because we're all alive and conscious and a part of this weird plasma shit that I don't understand.
We're all filled with plasmic consciousness. I don't know if that's
We're all...
plasmic is even a real word, but it is now.
I don't know. It is. All right. Well, bye then.
Bye.
Bye.